come to monetizing purpose, where we pursue purpose, earning a living, doing what we love, with the people that we love. Why are you so desperate? Eh? Why are you so desperate? Why are you so desperate to get a break that you negotiate in bad faith? Eh? Why are you so desperate that you are selling yourself and your purpose short? Hey, today we are talking about negotiating for your purpose. As you go about your journey to fulfill your purpose, as you've discovered and you are working towards the fulfillment of your purpose, there will come a time when you've monetized your purpose. And when you are working on the monetization of your purpose, you are going to get into boardrooms if it's boardrooms. You are going to get into negotiating tables, whichever size, however big or small they are. Don't negotiate desperately. Don't sell yourself too short. Don't sell yourself too short that you negotiate too desperately. If there is any man or woman who walks out of a deal in the negotiating room, it's the man who's too desperate. Whether it's the soccer player, whether it's the basketball player, the tennis player, whichever, I can give you countless, many examples. Many examples of men and women who negotiated desperately and they lived to regret it. You know, if I'm thinking about someone who was never too desperate when they were negotiating, one of my favorite examples is Tyler Perry. You know, when Tyler Perry was on his, when he got on his journey writing plays and performing in art studios and play theaters, he never got to a point where he negotiated desperately. He knew the value. He knew the value of the gift that he carried, and he appreciated how much worth that gift has for him and what that gift can do for him. As you are looking about going to negotiate, whether you are going to be negotiating for your business, whether you are going to be negotiating for a book deal, whichever deal up, know your worth. Hey, know your worth and know that what you are carrying, the purpose that you were called and created for, there is no dollar amount, no pound amount, no rand amount, no shilling amount, no yet whichever currency it is that you are using. There is no dollar amount that can equate to the assignment that you've been given. You know, when you come out of poverty or when you are coming from a poverty-stricken background, sometimes every and any opportunity to eat, it's the best opportunity that you think that you have, because it will alleviate the hunger that you have. Hey, my friend, don't sell yourself too short. Hey, don't sell yourself too short because of an empty stomach. And if it gets to a point where you are negotiating with an empty stomach, hey, if for whatever reason you cannot miss that negotiation opportunity with that hungry stomach of yours, then don't negotiate long-term contracts on an empty stomach. Yeah, don't negotiate long-term contracts on an empty stomach. However desperate you are, don't negotiate long-term contracts on an empty stomach. Take some time. Breathe in and breathe out. Take a day or two. Then come back tomorrow sober. Then get back on the negotiating table. Because if you negotiate on an empty stomach, and if you negotiate desperately, you're going to lose out. I remember a few years ago I was writing blogs for this Christian publishing. website, publishing magazine. I don't know how has it grown or where it is today. And I thank God that I saw this when I was young. I remember the first time when I went to university, when I went to Wits University. And I remember as I was registering, that, when you are registering for your first year, and I remember I was even late. And I remember that morning, I thank God for Wits, I thank God for Wits and the registration team. Because, I had come from Limpopo. I don't know where Wits is. And I'm thankful for Tabiso and my uncle and the church at Oliven or OCF. Got to Johannesburg, they welcomed me. In fact, I thank God. It was Teddy. Yeah. Teddy was the one who showed me around Oliven when I had first arrived. Because at the time when I was supposed to go to my uncle's place, my uncle and his wife and the family were not at home. So the first stop for me to get off, I got off at Oliven. And it was at Oliven where I spent the day with Teddy and his family. And I thank God for them because they were the ones that showed me around. And after they showed me around, and for the couple of days to come, then my uncle connected me with Tabiso. Tabiso was the one who took me to Johannesburg. He was the one who took me to Johannesburg and showed me where Wits was. He showed me Bramfontein. He showed me where I got the bus, where I would catch the taxi. And I'm thankful for him. Then came the day when I was supposed to go and register. And I woke up very early. I was so excited to be going to Wits, man. It had been a dream of mine. And I got, I woke up very early. I knew that this was an opportunity that I didn't want to miss. So I left around 6 a.m. and my registration time was 9. Thinking that by 7 I'll be there and I'll be waiting for 9. Counter air traffic, maybe I'll be there around 8 and I'll still be early. I didn't know. I didn't know how that's to happen. Cutting the long story short, I take the security takes, the security guys who are working at the estate that we were living in. Those guys have their own bus. So I saw their taxi and I'm like, bye, guys, I'm going to Johannesburg. Can I? Then they're like, yeah, sure, man. We are going there, but we are just going to collect some of our colleagues first in the estates around us. Then we'll go to Johannesburg. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Then while we are doing that, cutting the long story short, I end up, it's 9 a.m. and I'm at Alexandra. I think it's Alexandra. I think it's Alexandra or that other one. I forgot which one. I confused Alexandra and the other township. I'm there. There's a long queue. And it's 9 and I'm supposed to be registering. And ultimately I'm late. I think I got to Wits around 10 minutes before the end of the registration. I get there, I submit my documents and everything. And what I'm thankful for is that in that particular time, while I'm there, even though I'm late, I'm like, no, I'm not going to sign this contract before I read to realize or to see what I'm signing myself up to. I'm there, I go through the entire contract. I'm like, I'm reading. I'm like, come to a clause in the contract which says that, I'm not sure if it's still there at the moment. Anything or any innovation that you come up with, it becomes the intellectual property. It becomes the intellectual property of the institution. Okay. Then that clause in that contract, and I remember when after I got excluded from Wits because I was not performing well because I was not in purpose. I'll talk about that another time. The next institution I went to, it still had the same clause. Anything that you innovate while you are in this institution, it becomes intellectual property of the institution. Boom, boom, go to University of Pretoria. The same thing. Then I start seeing this pattern. That's when I realized that no. If you are going to be signing a contract, you need to read the fine print. Know what you are getting yourself into. Don't just sign anything. And this is a lesson. That has served me well. Because realizing that, then I came to the conclusion that if there's any innovation that I'm going to make, I'm not going to make it whilst I'm registered here. Because if I'm going to be creating something of value with my life, then I don't want someone to own. I don't want someone to own my intellectual property. Then fast forward those many years later, I'm writing for this Christian blog magazine, and in the clause they are saying that no, when you are signing this contract, everything that you are writing for this magazine becomes the intellectual property of our company, and it's not yours. You can't post it anywhere. You can't use it anywhere without the written permission from the company. And I wrote back to them and like, no, I don't like this clause in the contract because I don't want you to hold all of my intellectual property. No, let it be. Let me license you. I'm not sure if I used the word license or whatever, maybe mindset or frame of mindset I was at that particular moment. But the gist of the email, the response was that, no, I don't like the terms of the conditions. Let's renegotiate. They refused to negotiate, and that was the end of our deal. That was the end of me partnering with that particular magazine and writing for them in that Christian magazine. Now imagine, after that, I wrote books, I wrote blogs. Now imagine if I had continued writing for them and I had given them the intellectual property. Everything, every powerful thing, it takes time to write a one-page masterpiece. I wouldn't be able to write books without their permission. If they said no, what was I going to do? I wouldn't be able to write my own blog or create my own things because I would have gotten too hungry that I negotiated in bad faith. My friends, in every industry that it is that you are in, don't get too desperate. Hey, don't negotiate on an empty stomach. Hey, I don't know if you are hearing me well. Don't negotiate on an empty stomach. My rule is that I never negotiate when I'm desperate. Because the man or woman who's desperate in any negotiation, they always lose. The man or a woman who's negotiating on an empty stomach, they always lose. Never, 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 ever negotiate for your purpose. Never, ever negotiate for your business desperately. Never, never, ever negotiate desperately. Because when you do that, someone will take advantage of your desperation. How many people do you know who negotiated a movie deal or who negotiated a book deal and they signed over their intellectual property? They signed off everything. They signed off over everything and they got 1 million and maybe 3% of royalties. Then the book turned into a movie that earned billions of rands. The merchandising deal from that book, they came up with merch. Maybe it was cartoons and it was toys and things like that, and they end up missing out on billions and billions and billions of rands. One of my favorite shows, it's Shark Tank and Dragon's Den. And occasionally there will be someone who goes into Dragon's Den who negotiates desperately. And then they either they give up much more equity than they were willing to give up, or they eventually even sell the entire company, only to find out that the company is going to be worth more than they sold it to, that particular time when they sold it, only because they negotiated on an empty stomach or they negotiated desperately. One time in Dragon's Den, this guy went and he was negotiating for his smart doorbell. They rejected his pitch and they rejected his offer. And he said that I value myself and the product that I'm bringing in this den or in this Shark Tank. I value myself and the product that I know that I have, that I am not going to negotiate desperately. And he walked out with no deal. Later on, he sold that business, for a couple of billions. Just imagine. I think he was asking for, I don't remember the exact figure, but it was less than $1 million. And then you sell that particular business for billions to Amazon. Another classic example is Jan Koum. I don't know if I'm getting his surname or his last name properly. when he was asking for employment at Facebook, and they turned him down. They turned him down. And he knew that what he had, the ideas that he had, the innovations that he had, it were so valuable that he didn't negotiate on an empty stomach. Later on, he sold WhatsApp. I think it's 20 or 22 billion to the company that said he can't program. I can give you countless amounts of examples. There's this chap, I forgot his name. I was watching him on on Michael Jordan's documentary, The Last Dance. This guy he signed an 18 million deal with the I don't know if it's the Bulls, which I forgot. I even forgot the name of the club that he was playing for. And that contract was for 7 years. And as he kept on playing, and how valuable he became, he could not go back to the negotiating table, only because he negotiated on an empty stomach and he was too desperate. In every industry that you find yourself in, never ever negotiate on an empty stomach. Never ever negotiate desperately. Personally, my rule, I'm always willing to walk out of a deal when I'm negotiating. I'm always willing to walk out. I'm always willing to take my deal somewhere else. If the deal doesn't suit me well, and if the deal is not right, I'm always willing to walk away. You know what that did for me? That served me very well. I even self-published a book because no publishing company would want to touch my book. And I made lots of money. I made lots of money in that book. Yes, I don't know. I don't know if I would have made more money had I negotiated desperately and just wanted a publisher. And I remember the years to come, and when my book wasn't moving and it wasn't selling at the pace that I wanted to, and I even wanted to go and sell the book to the publisher. And I'm thankful that I never did that. So thankful that I never did that, because I made so much money with my book. And I don't regret self-publishing. Now my book is in many schools. They're teaching my purpose curriculum. It's in schools, and students all over Johannesburg are learning about purpose from my book. Now, what would you have? Yes. Having had gotten a publisher, maybe might have gotten me a bigger pool and bigger numbers, but that doesn't matter. What I learned was that I could do it on my own. I can self-publish and make lots of money. That was the important lesson. Only because I was not willing. To get 3% or 2% of a publishing deal. No. I thought that why should I get 2% of my intellectual property when I can get everything of my intellectual property? Yes, I might have not gotten millions and millions of rands, but hey, I still own everything. And later on, if it becomes a movie, I'm going to eat all of the bad. Hey, yes. Sometimes sometimes you have to negotiate, and it's better to have something of something than to have nothing of everything. Yes, sometimes that's the case. But for me personally, no. I would rather have nothing. I would rather have nothing of something than to have nothing of everything. No. I would rather have my book fail and flop than for me to negotiate desperately, and then the book that I sold for maybe 1 million rand or $1 million then ends up making 10 or 100 million. Imagine what would have happened to J.K. Rowling. They rejected Harry Potter. She self-published. Now she became a billionaire with a billionaire with Harry Potter. Look at Tyler Perry. He refused to sell the masters and the rights to his movies, his books. He refused. Now look at him. He's a billionaire. Only because he never allowed himself to negotiate on an empty stomach and to not negotiate desperately. Don't sell yourself too short. I always give this example. That the difference between Cristiano Ronaldo or Lionel Messi and other talented players, it's their ability to negotiate. Look at Michael Jordan. Probably one of the greatest basketball players to ever live. And one of the wealthiest. He's made lots of money because he never negotiated desperately. When others were signing off everything permanently, everything because they negotiated on an empty stomach. He didn't. When you look at someone like Cristiano Ronaldo or Lionel Messi and the deals that they've got with their different sponsors and everything, it's the difference, man. The man who builds a business on his purpose, the difference between the man who builds a profitable business on his purpose and the one who suffers is the ability to negotiate. The ability to negotiate. Doesn't matter in which industry that you are called for or you are going into. Don't sell yourself too short that you negotiate desperately. Always, for me personally, I'm always willing to walk out of a deal, even if I walk out with nothing. As long as I've got everything, I'm willing to walk away. And that has always protected me, and it has always protected my intellectual property. In the time that we are in, the era that we are in, you never know. You never know what can become of your gift. You never know what can become of your talent. You just never know. So instead of getting yourself into long-term contracts in bad faith, rather negotiate short-term contracts if you have an empty stomach. Or when you're negotiating with an empty stomach, negotiate short-term contracts. Don't negotiate long-term contracts. Don't negotiate long-term contracts on an empty stomach. No, don't. Always be willing to walk away. As you are going to be negotiating, you're going to be getting into business deals, you're going to be getting into conference rooms. Take some time before you get into that boardroom or before you get to the negotiating table. Take some time alone by yourself and work out what would be the best deal for you. Find out. Take some time. Take a day or a few days or a few hours if maybe you are getting this, the notice on short notice. Come into the boardroom. When you go into that boardroom, have that number in mind. Hey, if you are going to be negotiating, have that number in mind. If, let's say, for example, you are negotiating for a book, if you are saying that, no, whatever happens, if I'm going to be giving up my intellectual property, I'm willing to give up my intellectual property for 10 million. Have that number in mind. So that when you get into that negotiating table, you know your number. When they be like, nope, 10 million, be like, nope. They're like, no, we can't do that. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'll go and pitch to other people. Always be willing to walk away from your number. If your number is not met, always be willing to walk away. How many times have you heard of people who went and one of the classic examples, a friend of mine asked me, hey, Mr. Mambulo, this guy called me to come and photograph for him, and I went to photograph for him at this particular wedding. And this guy paid me 2,000 rands. He paid me 2,000 rands. And I later figured out that later on, he got paid 50,000 rands. And yet he never took photographs. I was the one who was doing all the work, and he gave me 2,000 bucks. Then I said to him, yeah, that's okay. You got what you're worth. You got what you were worth. It's like, no, Mr. Hambly, you're not being fair. No, I'm like, no. You sold yourself too short. You're the one who negotiated for 2,000. It doesn't matter even if you got 2 million or 2 billion. The fact of the matter is that you sold yourself too short, that you thought that the value and the gift that you have was worth 2,000 rand. And he paid you what you were worth. Always know that when you are going into a negotiating table, whatever the outcome of the deal is, you are going to get paid for what you are worth and how much you think you are worth. Whether that number is 2,000 rand, 200,000, 2 million, 200 million, 2 billion, 2 trillion. That all depends on you and how much you value yourself, how much you value your gift, and how much you value your purpose. If you don't value your purpose, if you don't value your gift, you can give up everything. You can negotiate for any and every deal, and that will be fine for you. If you don't know how much you are worth, if you don't know how valuable your gift is, if you don't know how valuable your purpose is, you can sell. You can sell your gift for any amount. But if you know how much you are worth, if you know how much worth your gift and your purpose is, you've got a number. When you're getting to that negotiating table, have that number in mind. You know, I always say, when I'm speaking by myself, to myself, if someone wants to buy, the only figure that I'm going to ever sell any of my businesses for, it's $1 billion and more. $1 billion and more. Never selling a business of mine less than $1 billion. Unless if I'm not selling all of it, I'm just selling a small portion of it, then I can do that. You see, I've got a number. I know that whatever it is that I'm building, I'm always willing to walk away. I'm always willing to walk away. And yes, it takes time to find the right partner. But it's better to take a year to get $1 billion than to spend 5 minutes and get $1 million. Hey, it's better to spend 15 years to get 100 billion than to spend 5 minutes and get 100,000. It all depends on you. Depends on how valuable you see yourself. It depends on how valuable you see your gift. My challenge to you, wherever you are, in whichever part of the world that you are in, never, never, ever negotiate desperately. And never, never, ever negotiate on an empty stomach. Because if you do that, someone will take advantage of you. Someone will take advantage of your purpose. And someone else will profit out of the value, the less value that you see yourself. You are valuable. You are worth more than you think. Negotiate in good faith. Don't sell yourself too short. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you next time.